Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Limmer research discovered that we could find one need. There's a 35% chance of doing business. If I could get two needs, there's a 52% chance. And if I could get listened for three needs without pitching anybody, there's a 92% chance someone's going to say yes to me.
This is Kansas City Connections, a local business podcast in Kansas City to help spotlight entrepreneurs and executives in the area and connect the bright minds of our community. Join us each episode to hear how these business owners and executives manage their companies, how they overcome present challenges, and how they plan to thrive in the future. Here's your host, Steve Hoover, owner of Wealth Partners Corporation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kansas City Connection local business podcast. My name is Steve Hoover. I'm your host today. I'm the president and owner of Wealth Partners Corporation here in Overland Park, Kansas. And I really appreciate you coming in and joining us today. And I'm really excited. I've got a individual who I've worked with in the past who I think you're really going to enjoy hearing about. His name is Dr. Kerry Johnson. And Dr. Johnson is a best-selling author of 13 books and speaks at least 8 times a month to audience from Hong Kong to Halifax, from New Zealand to New York, traveling 8,000 miles a week. So this guy is really busy, and he is really doing me a favor by taking his time to visit with me today. So Dr. Johnson, I appreciate you visiting with me.
Hey, thanks, Steve.
Well, great. Well, tell me, you've done 13 books. Kind of what are your books all about, and what are you all about? Kind of give everybody an idea.
Well, I'm a MBA Ph.D. level business psychologist. What that means is I'm an industrial psychologist. We talk about in the old days, but a business psychologist. And I've got an MBA, which makes me really dangerous. So what we do in my practice is we typically take a business. We try to find out where the owners want the business to go. We try to find what blocks, obstacles they have in the business, and we set pathways that keep people accountable. So, for example, my elevator speech, which every one of your HVAC people should have memorized, by the way, is that my name is Kerry Johnson. I'm a business psychologist, and I do 3 things. Number 1, we have a coaching program that promises our clients they'll increase their business by 80% within 8 weeks. Number 2, I speak around the world of conventions on topics like how to reach your client's mind, how to increase your business by 80% within 8 weeks, and also a topic called management magic, how to hire the right people. And number 3, I'm the author of 14 books, actually, and the newest one is called New Mindset, New Results, that helps people go through 3 mindsets to be able to run their business more effectively or to get better results. And of course, the 3 stages for an elevator speech is number 1, you label yourself so they don't say, so you're kind of like, right. Number 2, give them 3 things you want them to remember, which is your brand. Number 3, tell them a story. So here's my story. I was speaking at this really big conference a couple of years ago in Vancouver. It's called the $1 Million Roundtable. 8,000 people. This guy walked up to me the day after I spoke. And he said, you know that little touch-a thing below the elbow? Years before COVID. That thing really works. I said, how do you know that? Well, I went to Cardrina's restaurant the night after I heard you speak. The server was walking around a tray of tequila shoot, just kind of aimlessly wandering. He said, you having some problems tonight? Yeah, nobody likes tequila. It must be a bad economy. I don't know why things not selling. He said, listen, I just heard the speaker. Why don't you walk up to that guy over there, touch him on the arm, and ask if he wants to buy a shot. She said, I'm not going to touch people. So, nothing else is working. Just do it. And what she did, she touched the guy in the arm and said, would you like to buy tequila for yourself or a tray for the whole table? She had the whole tray sold in 10 minutes. Walked into this beautiful bayfront window, put the tray down, just kind of stared. He walked up and said, did it work? Yeah, really, really well. Why don't you get another tray? I don't want to do any more. It worked too well. I think it's unethical. So when you get to an elevator speech is number 1, tell people who you are. Number 2, give them 3 things you do better than anybody on earth. Number 3, tell them a story. And number 4 is obviously do a takeaway. Never sell people, but say things like, I'm not sure that's going to help you at all, but I'd love to hear more about you first. So that's what I do.
Interesting. Yeah, we I've the touch on the elbow. Kind of go into that real quick. Why does that push people to actually move forward? What is the reason behind that?
The reason is because University of Connecticut studies showed that people retain 83% more when they're touched below the elbow for less than 3 seconds. And what that means is really kind of a tap. We touch each other all the time. Maybe not so much in 2020, but after COVID, we're going to go back to touching. Well, if you really want to get people to pay attention and really focus and attenuate to one thing, you touch them as you say it. Like, Steve, that's a great shirt you got on. Or as I'm walking out of your office, I'm going to touch you on the arm, below the elbow, by the way, which is critical. And I'm going to say, thanks, you've done a super job with me today. I really appreciate that. You are going to remember that 83% longer than anything else. In fact, the research also showed that if you tap less than 3 seconds, people will never even realize they've been touched.
Interesting. That's interesting. One of the things that, you and I visited, maybe I think last week when we were setting this up, when I work with my HVAC contractor clients, we're really working on making sure their succession plan is in place. How do they continue to earn money but yet maybe not be involved in the business day to day? How do they sell it? Do they sell it to a private equity? How do they make sure they have the right retirement plan for their employees so they keep them happy and loyal? But one of the questions that's asked of me a lot is we really have to figure out how we can get people on this reoccurring revenue and on our monthly, I guess, their maintenance contracts. And you said that you had talked to some of HVAC contractors at some conventions and everything, and I had some interesting thoughts about that. Could you explain a little bit of kind of what we talked about?
Yeah, I've spoken to at least 5 HVAC conventions and also at least 10 companies. And the one thing that they always talk about is maintenance contracts, but what they never talk about is how to sell it. So they typically get, and here's what not to do, phone banks of people. They call you, say, hey, listen, we'd like to click, 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 click. There's like maybe 1% of the people are going to talk to you, and far fewer are going to actually do the contract. I actually bought a contract, and I canceled it. And the reason that I did, because I had a company come out, my air conditioning unit was broken. The guy said, we can give you a $100 discount if you buy our $100 maintenance contract. I said, well, that's a no-brainer. I'd love to do that. 3 months later, they called and said, how things going? We need to schedule somebody to come out there. And everything's working. I'm good. So 3 months later, how things going? We need to get some out there. And I said, you don't need to call me every 3 months. Everything's fine. 3 months later, how things going? And I got so tired of their pitch, and it was always a pitch. I just called, I said, let me talk to the owner. And I was going to give them a couple of ideas on how to sell better. They wouldn't talk to me. The telemarketers just kept calling. And I had to take I had to put a block because my cell phone was given to them. I had to block them to keep them from calling me more. So we came up with really an amazing system to be able to sell maintenance contracts. And it really focuses on a very simple concept called the 3-month call script. A couple of background points. We know that 89% of clients care more about the relationship than they do about the pricing they pay. In fact, Forrester research said that clients want 3 things. I call them clients because clients are relationships, customers are transactions. So it's always about a client. So clients want 3 things. Number 1, I want to understand what I'm buying. Can I functionally understand this? And most people don't, by the way. Even though you think you're explaining it well, they don't, and they don't remember. Number 2, they want to know that my HVAC guy is watching out for me. If something happens, he's going to be there. He knows me. He talks to me. Maybe there's an outage in California, and SC&E is going to cut off power. Maybe he calls me preemptively and says, listen, we're having these rolling outages. Let's have a chat about that. And number 3, this is the most important one, frequency of contact. Frequency of contact. So that 3-month phone call is really critical. And unless the client says they want you to talk to you more often, it's always 3 months. Now, here's the script to do it. If you do this as an HVAC owner and teach this to your people, your sales will go up by 38% within 30 days.
That's
38%, 30 days. Step number 1, catch up. Step number 2, update. Step number 3, 5-step bridge. And step number 4, referral. I'll talk about referrals in a couple of seconds. So let's go to step number 1, catch up. catch up on the family, catch up on the weather, catch up on whatever happens since the last time I talked to you. The reason most of the HVE companies have a lot of trouble keeping contracts is because the telemarketer has no connection to the client.
Yeah.
They call them and say, hey, listen, we need to get somebody out there. This guy doesn't know me. He's never talked to me. There's no relationship there. Wouldn't it be wonderful if that person said, hey, Kerry, Steve Hoover called and say, hey, Kerry, last time we talked to your daughter, I think you said she was 7 months pregnant. Is the baby there yet? And I think you said it was a boy, right? Which actually happened. Yeah, boy, good memory.
Right.
What's his name? Is he healthy? Is he okay? That's a relationship I will never leave. If someone calls and they know that much about me that they could pick up on the last conversation, I'm going to make time. I'm going to chat with them. Number 2, update. If you're going to call me every 3 months, which I want you to update me, and don't say to me, hey, listen, just want to check and see how you're doing. You're good? Okay. Talk to you in 3 months. I'm not going to pick up the telephone. On the other hand, though, if you call me and say, hey, listen, I just wanted to check on the power outages where you're at right now. I think you're not in a fire zone. So I think they're not going to preemptive cut off power for you right now, but they're doing that within around your zip code. Have you heard about this at all? Right now, SC&E is increasing rates by 3%. And we've discovered, of course, I'm doing placeholders here. We discovered that most people are spending about 10% more electricity because of filters need to be cleaned, et cetera, et cetera. How are your electricity rates right now? Are they going up, down? Are they stable? That's a conversation I'm going to have. I'm not going to talk to you if you say, just want to check up, get somebody out there. That's not going to happen. And number 3 is the 5-step bridge. So let me stop right there. So we have catch up on the family. By the way, another piece of research, we did research many years ago when I was at UC San Diego. We discovered that trusses were 17% of the gross price of a product or service. What that means is you can increase your fees or rates by 17%, and I'm not going to leave you. But if there's no trust, I'll leave you for a $1 discount from somebody else, which is why Costco exists. Number 2 is update me on something that's relevant, something I care about, something that's interesting, something I've heard about, some news, something that's going to benefit me. And number 3 is the 5-step bridge. So Steve, I hate to talk this long. That's even, you've been in my speeches before. I'm the guy that grabs people around the room and I kick their chairs and I ask questions constantly. So are you doing that with your clients right now? Catch up update.
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
And it really helps tremendously because now one of the things, and what you just gave was just priceless. I mean, if some of our listeners don't take that to heart, we've had that issue before where we got the maintenance contract, bought it before they came in to do some work, and then we ended up canceling it because we found the exact same thing that you had, and it just didn't feel right. But what you're talking about, and I use a lot of your strategies as well, is it just works so wonderful. Now, the one thing that I had to do was make sure I had a good CRM, customer relationship management system, in place so that I could remember all of that stuff. And it's really quite simple to put in. Most everybody should have one, and if you do, it's golden. And I'll tell you a real quick example of how this worked for me, of a client I talked to 2 years ago. She actually attended another one of my webinars that I had done, and she reconnected with me, wanted to visit, and she was getting ready to retire. And I brought up one of the facts that I had in my system and brought it up to kind of reconnect, and she goes, "You remembered that?" and it turned the whole conversation differently and moved everything on right down the line. So it's critical. I think what you gave was just some priceless information. So.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Now I want to get to the next part, which is, and I've got maybe about 5 or 6 minutes left. Mm-hmm. The next part is the most important area that will sell HVAC contracts. It's called the 5-step bridge. The 5-step bridge is predicated on the notion that nobody buys from your pitch. People buy from needs. If you find out what their needs are, and you find solutions to what their needs are, your closing ratio goes up to about 92%. So here's a couple of background points. Number one, Limmer Research, which is a group I did a lot of research with, discovered that we could find one need. There's a 35% chance of doing business. If I could get two needs, there's a 52% chance. And if I could listen for three needs without pitching anybody, there's a 92% chance someone's going to say yes to me. Other reason we have to have needs is every time I talk to somebody, if they want to postpone an appointment, I remind them of their needs. If they say that they want to think about it, I remind them of their needs. So these needs have to go in a CRM and they have to be frozen. People could change needs, but we always have to focus on those three needs. Here's how you do it. 5-step bridge is number one, introductory sentence. Number two, listen for those three needs. Number three, recap those three needs. Number four, trial close those three needs. And number five, book the next appointment. So let's go through this. So introductory sentence. Introductory sentence could be update, SC&E, power outages, all this kind of stuff. And then we have to transition by getting people to talk. So, gee, Mr. Client, what do you think about all the stuff that's happening? How do you feel about this? We got to get them to talk. Nobody buys anymore anyway from a pitch. You can't be glib enough. You can't have a script well enough. You can't have a phrasing good enough that people can say, wow, thank God you called me. I was looking for you for the last month. It's not going to happen. We have to find out what their needs are. Tell me your feelings about this. Well, I don't want my rates to go up. My electricity, boy, if I have some filter stuff, I guess that would drive up electricity too. So once we get those needs, and there's a couple of ways of doing that, hurt and rescue, but the most important thing is just listen, just keep probing, keep prompting. Then we do this very cool technique called recap. I call it the psychotherapeutic model of listening for people's needs. I was sick a couple of years ago. Flu, not COVID, and I was flipping around channels and I was watching Showtime, and there was this program called The Affair. And this guy had an affair a couple of years ago with a waitress in Connecticut. The waitress got remarried. His wife got remarried, went to California, married a neurosurgeon. The guy was left holding the bag, which is appropriate, by the way. And this woman, his ex-wife, was in California, and she was in front of a psychotherapist, and she just whined about Malibu. I hate this place. There's blue skies everywhere. And the ocean is blue. It can't be purple. It's just so boring here. And it's always 75 degrees. And I hate this place. Of course, she missed New York. Now, the reason I'm not a psychotherapist, I would have said, get the blank out of my office and leave $250 with my assistant. But he was a good psychotherapist.
Right.
So he recapped. Let me get this straight. You don't like blue skies. You don't like blue ocean. And the weather is temperature just really boring. Did I get that right? And she said, yeah, I miss New York. See, that's brilliant, because every psychotherapist will say the same thing. And every salesperson just pitches, closes, and they totally miss it. According to one research project I saw, actually US Trust, they discovered that 86% of the population bought because they felt understood. Only 6% bought because they were made to understand, which is what every HVAC company does. Let me make you understand this instead of making you feel understood. So now I get three needs. I recapped a really good job of getting a recap, and now I'm going to trial close. And trial close is always, so if we could take a look at 1, 2, 3, would that be the right way to go? It's never, would you buy from me? Would you be interested? No, that's salesy. People get defensive when they're sold. So if we could take a look at lowering rates, making sure the filters are new and not clogged up. And number 3, making sure the AC unit currently with 90-degree temperatures is operating efficiently. Would that be a benefit to you? And they're going to say yes every single time. And all we do then is book the appointment, get somebody to come out there, and now you have a client that feels listened to, there's a relationship, and then your HVAC rates go up, your sales go up by 38%. Happens every time.
That is absolutely golden stuff. So I am hopeful that the people listening today take that to heart, because I've used a lot of those techniques and it works. And we're kind of at the time here, Dr. Johnson. Let me do this. I really am implore that people go ahead and give you a call because you got some great stuff. Would they get a hold of you?
Well, if anybody wants to get a video of the stuff I just talked about, it's called the 3-minute phone call. They can just call us at 714-368-3650, 714-368-3650, or they can visit me at kerryjohnson.com, KerryJohnson, kerryjohnson.com, and they can just visit that and send us a note there too.
Outstanding. I really appreciate that. And it was, as I said, outstanding information. And I think this hopefully will help a lot of people, especially HVAC contractors, because I know they struggle with this a lot. So with that, I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody listening today. My name is Steve Hoover, the Kansas City Connection, a local business podcast. And I really appreciate you all listening today. So until next time, cheers.
Thanks for listening to Kansas City Connections, a local business podcast brought to you by Wealth Partners Corporation based in Overland Park. Need help planning for retirement? Call Steve Hoover at 913-685-3207. That's 913-685-3207 or online at wealthpartnerskc.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, and pretty much everywhere else you can listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next edition of Kansas City Connections, a local business podcast.
Any financial information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.